There was once a little boy who had a sister just about Evelyn's age, said Daddy. He was much disappointed that his sister didn't care more for long walks and boys' games and that animals seemed to frighten her. He used to scold her about it instead of helping her to get over her fear. One day these two children were taking a walk. They went into the country along a quiet road. They passed a little house in which lived an old woman who had a great many cats. She was very queer and her cats seemed to be queer too. Anyway, it was said that they hated strangers. The little boy didn't believe this, and when his sister tried to hurry by he laughed at her. "Oh, come and see this nice cat," he said. And he tried to pick the cat up. The cat objected to strangers, as all the people had said, and he started to scratch the little boy. With a cry his sister rushed to him. She grabbed the back of the cat and got him off. Then she cried, "Shoo," to the cat, which made him go right home, for he didn't care about hurting the little boy. He only would not be played with. "I shall never make fun of you again, sister," he said. "You saved me by taking off that cat, of which you were afraid. I have not been at all a nice brother to you, and I don't deserve such a good sister, for it was love for me that made you forget about your fear. But you may be quite sure I will never make fun of you in the future, for really you are the brave one." In the winter, at the start of the new year, said Daddy, when Mother Bear was sleeping and dozing and dreaming in her home back in the hole of a big rock, the little bears arrived. She taught them about the berries they must eat and about the things which would make them feel well and strong. She also told them of the bad things they must not touch, the things which would make their little tummies feel very miserable indeed and which would make them quite sick. And when, at last, they went out of the cave, and saw the real world, the trees and the forest paths, they wanted to start off at once for adventures, for the world looked so mysterious and wondrous. "Do you want to leave your old mother?" The black bear asked. "We love you, Mother, but we want to see the world," they said. Bang, suddenly went a gun, and Mother Bear received a slight wound. The baby bears were around her in a flash, but Mother Bear was safe, for the man with the gun had hurriedly gone when he had seen how near the old bear was. And he had seen her teeth and had almost been able to feel them. And the babies knew their teeth would never have done. They, too, had had a glimpse of their mother's anger and their mother's strength. And as they licked the wound they said, "We won't leave you, Mother Bear. We don't know the world as yet." And Mother Black Bear groaned with the hurt from the slight wound in her shoulder, but still more she grunted with pleasure, for her babies had seen that they still needed their mother. At night after the children had gone to bed and it had grown colder and colder, Old Man Snow came around to see what the children had been doing. Said Daddy. Well, he said as he saw a snow house and a snow fort and a snowman, "This is fine. They appreciate me. They know what handsome things I can make. This is really gorgeous. Look, Prince Icicle, isn't this fine?" Prince Icicle appeared with a number of the other princes and princesses who hung down from the roof of the snow house and the top of the snow fort and from the shoulders of the snowman. Prince Icicle himself took a very fine place over the doorway of the snow house. "Isn't this handsome?" asked Old Man Snow. "Our fine king will be delighted and his royal majesty will be honored." As Old Man Snow said these words, along came King Snow. He wore a most beautiful crown of snow and he showed the Icicle family the compliment of wearing icicles from his beard and his crown and his locks of snow and from his hanging snowy sleeves. "They stopped me as I went by the brook," said King Snow, "and begged me to have some of their jeweled icicles. Don't they sparkle beautifully? Yes, they asked me to have them, and the brook, which was beginning to freeze around the edges, begged me to listen to its story. It had so much to tell of its travels, how it ran down a long and winding hill and how it couldn't help trickling and laughing all the time with the jokes and merry tales it kept hearing." So Old Man Snow, King Snow, Prince Icicle and the other princes and princesses talked all through the night and told wonderful stories as they sat in the children's snow house. "To think," and Peter Goblin looked as if he were going to cry, "to think," he repeated, "that children shouldn't like us. Why, children are the nicest creatures in all the world, and I love them, I do. That's why I am so unhappy when they talk about me." The Fairy Queen had been listening to this talk and she felt sorry that so many untrue stories had gone around the children's world about Peter Goblin and the Goblin Brothers. "I'll tell you what I'd do, Peter," she said. "Keep on trying to tell as many children as you can how much you like them. Tell them that in years gone by people were far more nervous than they are now. They were afraid of the dark and things like that. Tell them that you never jump out at them in the dark, and that you only come to them when they are asleep. Explain as much and as often as you can that you never carry them far away from home, but that you simply sit on their bedposts and talk to them. I'll help you too, Peter. Thank you, said Peter Goblin, as he hopped and jumped away, for he felt far more cheerful now. He went to call on his friends, the children. He had a very hard time with one little girl. Good evening, said Peter, as he perched himself on the edge of the right bedpost of her bed. She drew the clothes over her head. Oh, don't do that, screamed Peter. It will make you have bad dreams and maybe you'll smother. Oh, dear, thought Peter, she will dream I'm horrid indeed if she does that. But after a moment she poked her head out again and looked at Peter. She couldn't help laughing at him, for he looked so funny and yet so sad. But still she was frightened, until after she had looked again, for between looks she hid her face, when she saw two big tears rolling down Peter Goblin's funny little face. What's the matter, little sir? She asked. She wanted to be polite when he felt so badly and yet he seemed so small and tiny to be called just Sir. I'm blue and sad, said Peter, 'cause children think I'm bad. They think I hide in the dark to catch them, and I love them, and want to tell them stories. Not a single goblin has ever hurt a child, no, no, no. Why, we would disown a bad goblin, we would. And the little girl promised Peter she'd let all her friends know this. The words beautiful, gorgeous, glorious and wonderful were talking. You see, said Beautiful, we've all been feeling rather sad that no one used us. We're always trying to live up to our names. We're always trying to be beautiful and gorgeous and glorious. We don't try to be mean or horrid or ugly. We haven't been jealous of you, Wonderful. Ah, said Wonderful, I understand. You've never gone back on your names. You've always meant the same things. You've been fine to keep your names and to be beautiful and gorgeous and glorious. But you needn't feel sad because you haven't been given much attention and because you haven't been used much lately. People have got into the habit of saying everything is wonderful. Really and truly I've been worked to death. I don't like to be worked so hard. I really and truly don't. I get tired, and yet I have to be ready when they want me. I'm just jumping from one to another and sometimes I'm half with one and half with another at the same time. But you keep on being beautiful and gorgeous and glorious, for you are three lovely words and Wonderful couldn't get along without you. Ah, Wonderful, said Beautiful, you do cheer us up. Yes, you are, Wonderful. And they all laughed as they saw what a useful, fitting, wonderful word it really was. If you think my life is a pleasant one, said the medicine bottle, I'll tell you from the start that it isn't. In the first place I was in the doctor's office. I saw the people quake and shake when they were told they had to take some bitter medicine. I don't suppose they really shook as much as I thought they did, but I was standing quite still at the time and they seemed to make a great deal of fuss. Then I heard someone say, doctors give us horrible stuff, when we think we're sick enough, but after all they make us well, and this fact, too, I think we should tell. Then someone else said, I wonder if the doctor has taken from the medicine bottle which must be shaken. It's hard to swallow it and be held by the nose, while we get down the horrible dose. Such are the things I've heard, said the medicine bottle. Did all the people speak like that? Asked the little white pills. They didn't speak in rhyme like that, said the medicine bottle, but those were the things they said which I've changed into rhymes. A medicine bottle must have something to cheer it up at times. Yes, I'll tell you my life is not a pleasant one. I'm never greeted with a smile. Fancy that, white pills. I'm never greeted with a smile. Here I sit on the mantelpiece and 3 times a day I am taken down and shaken as though they'd like to kill me, I do believe, and then with groans or tears or complaints I'm swallowed. Or rather, some of the medicine from me is swallowed. It's a terrible life that I lead. One day in a baker's shop, said Daddy, appeared a very small-sized loaf of bread. A little girl named Lucy was shopping with her grandmother. Oh, look, said Lucy, look at the tiny loaf of bread. Now the loaf of bread would have smiled. Only loaves of bread can't smile and if they should laugh they would crumble. So the loaf of bread kept a perfectly straight face. I thought I'd be noticed by a child, said the small loaf of bread. You won't last as long as we will, said a larger loaf of bread. Oh, who cares about the size, said the small loaf. Of course you don't, said another larger loaf. Now, said the small loaf, don't be mean and unkind to your little friend and relative, the small loaf of bread. I'm the only small one here, though I heard the baker say if folks like me the size I am and if mothers bought me for their children he'd make a lot like me. We didn't mean to be unkind or mean, said the larger loaves, only we are a little envious. We've been the same size always. We have to follow our relatives who are baked ahead of us and are sold ahead of us. We always have to follow their example. But you have been made differently. You have been made a small size. You're cunning and different. You are just like us in taste and shape and kind. but smaller in size and that makes you very interesting. Hush, said the small loaf of bread, I am being bought. Hush. And off went the little tiny loaf, in a paper bag, carried by Lucy. Just as soon as it got home, having been carried all the way, for Lucy knew it couldn't walk or run home, a nice fat crust was cut off and Lucy ate it with joy. My nice little baby loaf of bread, she said, you are so cunning and so good to eat. And the loaf of bread was glad it had been made so tiny and cunning and yet so good. Daddy had heard that afternoon the story of a very tame canary bird. The little girl who owned the bird, and who was a friend of Jack and Evelyn, had told Daddy about her little pet. So when Daddy got home in the evening he was ready at once to tell the story of the little bird. I am going to tell you about the little bird Elizabeth has. Her daddy gave him to her several weeks ago, and he is just as tame can be, said Daddy. She has named him Bubsy, and he knows his name too, for whenever she calls Bubsy, he replies with a little peep, peep. Every morning, bright and early, he wakes up and begins to sing the most beautiful songs. He sings so steadily that Elizabeth says it is a surprise to her that he doesn't burst his little throat. After Elizabeth gets up she always gives him a little piece of apple before she begins her breakfast. She puts it on her finger between two wires of the cage, and he hops right over on his little bar and takes it from her finger. Illustration. In the afternoons Elizabeth lets him out of his cage. Page 13 The next thing is his bath, which he takes soon after breakfast. He loves that. He spatters the water about and has just the best time in the world. He acts as if it were the most wonderful game. After his bath he has a treat of delicious lettuce to eat, and then he sits in the sun and smooths down his feathers. In his cage there is a swing, and he swings on it and hops from one perch to the other. In fact, he has a fine romp. He usually does this right after his bath, for then he feels so energetic. In the afternoon Elizabeth lets him out of his cage. Of course she sees first that there are no windows up or doors ajar before she opens the door of the cage. When the cage door is open Bubsy flies out and makes a tour of the room. How he does enjoy flying around and perching back of the different pictures and on the window sill. The thing he likes more than anything else is to play with Elizabeth. He perches on her shoulder and walks around on her hand. And he loves to tease her too, for if there are any flowers in the room he will fly over to them, peck at them and begin munching at them. Then he won't let Elizabeth catch him. He thinks this a huge joke, and he always flies to some high spot in the room and begins to sing, which is his favorite trick of all. Carrie was 9 years old, Daddy said. A few minutes before 11. Carrie's little brother came to her, ringing a large bell. Come to the celebration for the Queen of the Day, he shouted, and all the family joined the procession. In the center of the room was a table. And such a marvelously covered table. But, first of all, they seated Carrie in a big rocking chair at the head of the table. They were all dressed up in funny costumes which they always wore for birthday celebrations. The table was full of presents, and in the center was a cake with 9 lighted candles on it. Many happy returns of the day. They all cried together. She opened her presents one by one. She had lovely pink knitted bedroom slippers from her mother, a beautiful doll from her daddy, a workbag from her granny, a paint box from her auntie, and a big box of candy from her brother, which he'd bought with his very own saved-up money, and which to Carrie was the best present of all. There was once a little girl whose name was Maggie, said Daddy, and how she did love meals. Now, one evening when Maggie had gone to bed along came a fine-looking creature very handsomely dressed. Who are you? Asked Maggie. I'm the Dream King and I'm going to take you to a party. So Maggie went with the Dream King and they visited such interesting and hospitable people. They went to a huge city which seemed to be made of delicious things to eat and which, as soon as people ate from the city, the food grew or was cooked back again. It was all very marvelous. And to Maggie's surprise she saw Duke Ice Cream take up a spoon and scoop a huge mouthful right off his very arm. And in another few minutes his arm was as before. The Duke told her he liked the cold weather and that he always lived in the coldest part of the city. Lady Lettuce was followed everywhere by her pages, the vinegar and oil boys. And sometimes she had friends to call on her like the Tomato Twins and the Cucumber Cousins and the Potato Pals. Maggie also met Apple, the queen of all the pies. Maggie had the very best time in the world, and when the Dream King told her he must be taking her back, Maggie said, "And you've not told me I was wrong to enjoy my meals so much. I gave you a surprise, in not scolding you, asked the Dream King. Well, you're never greedy or selfish, and if you like your food I think it is fine. Good night."